If there's one series that I've always wanted to get more into, it would be Fire Emblem. Sure, I played Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn on the Wii and loved it, but Nintendo have not made many of the other games in the series easily accessible, especially when you're mainly a console gamer. The many $100 price tag for the GameCube's Path of Radiance is proof enough. The latest in the series, Fire Emblem Three Houses, has been on my most anticipated list for a while now. I love a good strategy RPG, so this one was a no-brainer for me. Three Houses did not let me down. It not only reminded me of the love that I had for Radiant Dawn back in the day, but it also had a serious Persona, Suikoden and Harry Potter vibe about it, which helped make the experience even more unique and amazing. If I had to recommend one Switch title for the year, this would be the one. Let's get into it. So, they call it Three Houses, and this title directly relates to the structure of the narrative. You play the role of a male or female Byleth, a mercenary who travels around the continent of Fodlan with his or her father Geralt. After rescuing a few young nobles, Byleth and Geralt travel back with them to their school campus. Enter Garrick Mark Monastery, the Hogwarts of the Fodlan continent. Shortly after entering, Archbishop Lady Rhea decides to appoint you as a professor of a class, which means you have to choose who you want to teach. On my first playthrough, I chose the Golden Deer, who specialised in archers. All you Golden Deer fans out there, put your hands up. This story had me completely engaged from start to finish, but the incredible thing about Three Houses, and perhaps the standout feature, is that your playing experience will be so different depending on which house you choose. The narrative eventually branches out into three quite different paths, and this, along with the unique classmates that join you along the way, help make the experience for each path so unique. In fact, after finishing the game with the Golden Deer house, I don't think I've ever been so keen to jump into a second playthrough in my life. I wanted to see the engaging narrative from a different point of view, and even now I look forward to playing through the game a third time from yet another angle. I've always been a fan of multiple point of view storytelling, and Fire Emblem Three Houses nailed it. There are some serious Persona vibes shining through in Three Houses, in that there is a month leading up to each main quest and that it's entirely up to you how to spend your time. Every Sunday you can choose from exploring the school grounds, participating in a side battle, conducting a seminar, or just resting. Each of these have their own pros and cons, and they all have their purpose depending on what your current priorities are. For instance, I like to start the month exploring the school grounds. This allows me to do loads of things such as chat to other students, fight in the arena, cook meals, fish, plant crops, or even hold tea parties. And there's also a few optional side quests every month, but just about all of these were boring, repetitive fetch quests with little reward, which was disappointing. The other main option that you'll be choosing a lot is Battle, which allows you to take on side missions. Some of these directly relate to your students and provide some awesome rewards. There really is a load of variety here, and I felt that this was the perfect way to break up the main story. Now, let's take a moment and talk about the massive cast of characters in Fire Emblem Three Houses. Each of the three houses has 8 students who you will eventually learn a lot about. These characters are incredibly well developed through an insane amount of cutscenes. I just couldn't get over the amount of voice dialogue here, as each of your students have several one-on-one scenes with each other student in their class, as well as other characters around the school. I'm no mathematician, but that equals hundreds of character interactions to watch. Most of these are interesting too, but I think the real MVP here is the exceptional voice acting. By the end of my first playthrough, I knew my entire class's likes and dislikes, motivations, strengths and weaknesses. This made it that I couldn't wait to start a new game again and learn about a new group of students from the different houses. Students that I've seen around the place and perhaps fought with once or twice, but didn't know too much about.
In fact, were someone to carry out those orders, I know that I'd attempt to stop them.
Stop bothering with all this. You're not meant to be a knight. Go find a husband.
If you're familiar with SRPGs, you'll know what to expect from the gameplay. You can choose up to 10 party members per battle and turn by turn control them in a grid-like environment. Your party composition will be made up of your class plus several other characters that you meet along the way. You can also borrow members from other classes temporarily or get them to fight for you if you meet certain conditions, but personally I always wanted to use my current class. Whoever you take out into battle, there should be a good mix of units, as there is a lot that needs to be considered, including damage output, range, hit percentage, counter-attack damage, positioning, healing, the list goes on. Every turn, each one of your units can move, then unleash a regular attack or use a combat art that are more powerful but wears down your weapon durability faster. There are also battalions. Based on your authority stat, you can assign them to a character. Battalions not only give stat boosts, but also unique area attacks that can be unleashed during battle. The amount of variety here really makes the gameplay superb and is one of the standout features of Three Houses. My only issue here, and perhaps my only issue with the game at all, is that it is too damn easy. Well, it was. There has just been a free DLC released with a maddening difficulty, but this is months after the initial release, so just let me rant a little about what I experienced. Initially, there were only 2 difficulty levels to choose from. First, I played it on normal, which was an absolute cakewalk, and I steamrolled through the game without any issue at all. The second time around, I played it on hard, which ended up being even easier since it was a new game plus and the fact that I knew what I was doing from before. This took a lot of fun out of the game for me, as very little thought needed to be put into my actions. There's just no excuse for this. Providing us with a challenge should never be downloadable content. This is shit. I'll also mention that in addition to the difficulty level, there is an option to play the game in classic or casual mode. Casual just makes it so that your characters don't permanently die if they're knocked down in battle. This is great, as a permadeath would just have annoyed me and made me restart the battle. And I'll tell you now, a character dying would be a huge shame because you do not want to miss out on all of the awesome individual character scenes. But not that any of this would really matter anyway, since another new addition is the Divine Pulse system. Surprise, surprise, this makes the game even easier. At any point, so long as you have charges remaining, you can rewind time in battle. If a character dies, rewind. If you make a small error, rewind. If you just like to rewind, rewind. Maybe this wouldn't feel so cheap if the game was actually a challenge. Maybe this wouldn't feel so cheap if the game was actually a challenge. There's a lot that you can do with your classmates. Most of the character customization and stat building will come during your time at school. To put it simply, each character can focus on 2 core skills at a time, such as swords or horse riding, and these are called goals. In class and in battle, these stats will grow and provide new abilities that can be equipped by each character. These goals not only play a part in the skills that they learn, but also the requirements to progress to more advanced classes. For instance, to evolve into a Fortress Knight, the character will need a B rank with both the axe and heavy armor skills. One thing that I really liked here is that your students will actually approach you with their thoughts and suggest new goals for them to focus on. You, of course, as a professor, have complete control over their futures. If you want Raphael with a giant beefcake to be a healer, then go for it. I really didn't give the whole goal setting aspect too much thought on my first playthrough, but on my second time around, I was planning this from the very start. This pre-planning definitely paid off when it came to changing into some of the more advanced classes. Fire Emblem Three Houses. Best Switch exclusive this year? I'll raise my glass to that. It's almost like the developers knew what I wanted by taking some of my favorite things and putting it all together into a single package. The multiple path storytelling was pulled off extremely well and caused me to start a new game the moment I finished, which is rare for me. The amount and quality of the characters is also commendable. There are so many quality scenes to watch here, and best of all, the voice acting is spot on. Everything about the gameplay has been well thought out and is highly addictive. I just wish I was challenged. I was given all the tools in the shed but nothing to use them on. I really cannot excuse this. DLC challenges? No thanks. By now, I'm hoping you're convinced that Fire Emblem Three Houses is a must-play title and one of the best Switch exclusives out there. With the amount of games the Switch is porting recently, I really hope that the other Fire Emblem games will be out on the Switch soon. This was Hellfire RPGs, thanks for watching. What did you think of Fire Emblem Three Houses? Let me know in the comments. See you next time.